Bienvenue à Coffee Break French.
Welcome to the final episode in this season of the Coffee Break French Show. Moi, c'est Marc.
Et je suis Max.
Comment vas-tu, Max?
Très bien, un peu triste de terminer la saison.
Ouais, moi aussi. Tiens, moi aussi.
Oh!
That is exactly our topic today. We'll get back to that in a moment. But this is, of course, the Coffee Break French Show, a series of weekly episodes in which we're helping you take your French to the next level, one coffee break at a time. And if you are enjoying our mugs here, you can get your very own mug by clicking on the link underneath this video or visiting coffeebreakgiftshop.com.
Excellent. And please remember to subscribe to the podcast feed wherever you get your podcast. And if you're watching the video version, please subscribe to our channel on YouTube.
So earlier I said moi aussi. We're going to be talking about moi aussi, but other words, other expressions that go along with moi aussi when you're reacting to things in this episode.
Exactement.
Shall we get started?
Allez, on y va.
Alors, Max, nous avons 4 situations.
4 situations exactement.
Tu veux nous expliquer?
Oui, bien sûr. So it's about how to react to a statement, to agree or disagree with it, for example.
And you can have positive statements.
Oui,
and negative statements.
absolument. So let's make it clear straight away. We're talking about grammar positive or grammar negative.
Yeah.
So a negative sentence would have a negative word such as not, nothing, no one, etc.
Tout à fait.
If you hate something, it's a positive statement.
Believe it or not.
Broccoli, for example.
That's still positive grammatically, even though it's quite negative in its meaning, shall we say. Okay,
Exactly.
Perhaps some examples will help.
Oui.
And then we can work out how we would react to these.
So I will tell you statements about myself,
Mhm.
and you tell me if they apply to you as well or not.
Okay.
Okay.
En français, bien sûr.
En français, bien sûr.
C'est important.
Alors, on commence. J'habite en Écosse.
Moi aussi.
Moi aussi. Super.
So me too. Moi aussi. Straightforward enough.
Right. So if you agree with a positive statement, moi aussi. Now, if I tell you, je suis français.
Mm. So what I want to say is I'm not. So can I say moi non?
Moi non is a
Uh-huh.
perfect way of saying it, indeed. So literally me not.
Yeah.
Mhm. There's another way of saying it.
Mhm.
It's pas moi.
So you say it again?
Je suis français.
Pas moi. Okay, so I'm not. Pas moi. But you wouldn't say je ne le suis pas or anything like that.
You could if you want to go the long way.
Yeah.
Which is absolutely correct as well.
But just say I'm not, moi non, or pas moi.
Absolument.
Okay.
Well, if I tell you, je ne suis pas japonais.
Right, so here you've got a negative statement. You've got a ne pas, je ne suis pas japonais. And I want to say I'm not Japanese either. So I would say moi non plus.
Moi non plus.
Moi non plus. Okay.
Super. Et un dernier, je ne parle pas allemand.
So you don't speak German. I do speak a little German. So in English, I would say I do. But in French, I would say moi si.
Moi si.
Yeah. So it's not moi oui in this case. And this is important because the word oui just means yes. But when we're talking about this negative positive response to a negative statement, then you use si.
Exactement. And this is a mistake we see commonly in the different courses, and students, learners ask us regularly to explain. So this is all in this episode.
Good stuff. Okay.
And it's interesting what you said. For the last example, so, je ne parle pas allemand, moi si. So in English, I don't speak German, or I do.
Yep.
So if you were telling me je parle allemand,
Yeah.
and I want to tell you I don't,
Yep.
you would, as a French speaker learning English, I had to figure out that it's do that I need to use.
Yeah, because do isn't in the original sentence.
No, it's not. If you
It's
say I speak English, I have to figure out, is it I'm not, I don't, I haven't.
Yeah.
So that way French is more straightforward.
Yeah. And it's always good to, in a sense, remind ourselves as learners of another language that people who have learned English and speak it amazingly well, they've gone through that stage as well. They've gone through the challenges of learning another language. So don't worry,
There
stick
was
at it.
a lot of mistakes happening over the years, but all worth it.
Indeed.
Now, I knew your answers for the previous 4.
Okay.
Now I'll give you another few sentences that I don't know of.
Okay.
So if I tell you, je n'ai pas de sœur.
moi si, j'ai une sœur.
Okay, so you do have a sister.
Yeah,
Super.
so I do, moi si, using the si.
Because my sentence was negative,
Yep.
so to say yes, it has to be si and no.
Mm-hmm.
Je joue au volleyball?
Ces jours-ci, moi non.
Non.
So these days I don't. Moi non, or pas moi.
Les deux,
Les
super.
deux. Okay.
Je ne suis jamais allé en Jamaïque.
En Jamaïque. So I've not been to Jamaica either, so I'll say moi non plus.
Moi non plus. Excellent. Okay. And if I ask you the question, t'es jamais allé en Irlande?
Yes, I have been to Ireland, so I would say t'es jamais allé. So that's a negative question, isn't it? Because
it is.
And a jamais, I would say si.
Si, exactement.
Yeah. So we don't need the moi si because we're not comparing against you, for example.
No, because the question was about using tu, so about you already.
Yeah, so si, je suis déjà allé en Irlande.
And you had to identify the negative word, which is what made you say si and not oui.
Yeah, exactly.
If I ask you, t'es déjà allé en Irlande?
Oui.
Oui.
Yeah, that's interesting. So if you had said you've not been to Ireland, or have you not been to Ireland, then that's a really clear negative, and I would answer, si, I have been. But as you said, the negative word there is jamais. Could you give us an example where the negative word is plus, where we've got ne plus?
Tu n'as plus de café?
Si, j'ai encore du café.
Ouais.
Okay, so that works as well with plus because that's our negative word there. Mm-hmm. It's just not the actual traditional negative word pas, basically.
Yeah, pas, jamais, personne, yeah. Nulle part.
Nulle part, all of these. Good. Okay, all makes sense.
Super. So these were all using moi at the start to express agreement. So obviously it works with toi or lui, elle, nous, etc.
So with all of these pronouns, we can use the same idea. So with toi, lui, elle, nous, and so on.
Ouais, exactement.
I'm thinking, for example, if I said to you, because I know that you're just back from Cyprus, you had a lovely time there. So, moi, je ne suis jamais allé à Chypre. Toi si.
Moi si. Effectivement. Okay. Tout à fait.
Et attention, c'est à Chypre, to Cyprus. And that takes us back to season 1 of the show, doesn't it?
Oui, the prepositions before a place. Exactly. Very good episode.
It was.
So it doesn't necessarily talk about people. It can be about anything, really. So if I tell you, j'adore les croissants, et j'adore le chocolat aussi.
Aussi, yeah. But if you didn't like two things, I don't know, je n'aime pas les oignons et les concombres non plus.
Non plus. Because it's a negative, je n'aime pas, and you're agreeing with the negative, agreeing on not liking it.
Yeah.
And les concombres non plus.
Non plus. If we wanted to turn that around a little and say, I don't like neither onions nor cucumbers, then that would be different, wouldn't it?
So we have it's one of my favorite negative words, is ni.
Ni.
So it's ni A nor B.
Yeah. So it would be, je n'aime ni les oignons. Nice liaison there, les oignons.
Ouais, super.
A couple of episodes. Ni les concombres.
C'est exactement ça.
Do we need a non plus in there?
No. No, because the ni covers the idea of neither nor. So it's already wrapped in those two tiny words.
Good stuff. Okay.
And one of the aspects of this agreement, disagreement, or applying, not applying, that gets really tricky for learners is that you have to react to the last element mentioned.
So you're confusing me now, Max. What do you mean there?
Picture yourself in a nice terrace in a restaurant.
Okay.
Right? And there's 4 of you eating, and the waiter comes and asks, do you want the coffee?
Okay.
The first person would say either I do or I don't.
Yeah.
Right? So, oui ou non.
Yep. That makes sense.
So if the first person says no, the second person now has to react to the negative statement that was just made.
As opposed to reacting to the original question. Do you want the coffee? Right. So let's think about this. Person number 1 says no. Or no.
No.
Person number 2 then says if they want a coffee, they would have to say moi si.
Si. And the very fact of saying si turns it back to a positive statement.
Yep. So if the next person after that wants a coffee too, then would they say moi aussi?
Exactement. Super.
And then the last person, let's say, doesn't want a coffee. In that situation, they would say moi non or pas
Or
moi.
pas moi.
Ah,
Excellent.
excellent. Okay, that makes sense.
So you have to be quite alert and keep up with what's happening.
Yeah. And if you miss it, then you can just say je ne veux pas de café.
You can always go for the long sentence. Yeah.
But you'll sound more French if you say moi si, moi non, moi non plus, and so on.
Yes, people are usually surprised when they go to France, spend time there, say, I hear non plus all the time. It's very true.
Good stuff.
How about a little quiz to finish?
Sounds good. We'll do a little quiz. Yeah.
Right? So I'll give you an original statement, which is geography. You like geography?
I like geography, yeah.
Okay, good. Moi aussi. La France est en Europe.
Okay, so a lovely liaison there, first of all. La France est en Europe.
Double liaison. Est en Europe. And I'm going to give you countries, and you have to tell me in the short for reaction form if they're also in Europe or not in Europe. Or
right.
Not
I see where we're going. Okay.
And remember, you have to react to the last one.
Yeah.
So, la France est en Europe. What about l'Italie?
L'Italie aussi.
Super. Le Brésil?
So I'm reacting to Italy now.
Ouais.
So, le Brésil, non.
Le Brésil, non. Or, how could you...
Pas le Brésil.
Or pas le Brésil.
Yeah.
So, the two are perfectly fine, just pas comes before and non comes after. Le Japon?
Right, okay, so now we've got to think about Brazil wasn't in Europe. So Japan is also not in Europe. So do I say, but it's also not. Le Japon,
Ouais.
non plus.
Non plus, exactement. So Brazil isn't.
Yeah.
Japan
Isn't
either.
Yeah, okay, right.
La Belgique?
So we're now back to is, and we're contradicting Japon. So we're saying la Belgique si.
La Belgique, si. Super.
Okay.
And again, this is the only case where si means oui. It's to say yes to a negative statement or question. So we are Belgique maintenant. L'Espagne?
L'Espagne aussi.
Bien sûr. La Chine?
La Chine, non.
La Chine, non. Pas la Chine. L'Australie?
L'Australie non plus.
Non plus. Le Chili? Chile?
So this is where I'm struggling because I think it's non plus.
It is non plus again because the previous one was l'Australie non plus, which has non in it, which is still a negative statement.
Okay.
So if you have 5 things in a row that are not something, it's non plus, non plus, non plus, non plus.
Right. And likewise, 5 things in a row which are, it's just aussi, aussi, aussi.
Exactly.
As opposed to oui.
As opposed to oui.
Yeah, okay.
And the last one, le Portugal.
Le Portugal, si.
Le Portugal, si.
Finalement.
Parfait.
There we have it. We hope that you have enjoyed this episode of the Coffee Break Show. It certainly has been quite a tricky episode to get our heads around. It doesn't necessarily seem like a tricky thing to begin with, but when you think about it, you think, oh, wait a minute, how would we actually say that? Of course, if you want to see all of these examples, and now that everything has been explained and it all makes much more sense, then you can head to our blog article where we've given you lots of explanations, lots of additional examples, and the link for that is in the description of this podcast.
Super, merci. And if you'd like more help with your French, we send out regular free email lessons. If you want to subscribe, visit coffeebreaklanguages.com/French.
Now, as we said earlier, this is the final episode in the series. Quel dommage. We hope that you've enjoyed this season. We will be back again soon with more Coffee Break French, the Coffee Break French show, of course. But in the meantime, do check out all of our French resources. We have a whole range of courses at different levels, and you can find out all about them, of course, at coffeebreaklanguages.com/French.
Super, j'ai adoré cette saison.
Moi aussi. moi non. Moi aussi, et donc merci à toi, merci à Pierre-Benoît aussi,
Ouais.
et merci à toute l'équipe.
Merci à toi.
C'est gentil.
Et merci à vous, bien
Surtout,
sûr.
merci à vous et à la prochaine. Salut!
Happy coffee breaking!
You have been listening to a Coffee Break Languages production for the Radiolingua Network. Copyright 2024 Radiolingua Limited. Recording copyright 2024 Radiolingua Limited. All rights reserved.